All praise, all glory, all honor, most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the house of faith, and I come to truly blessing each and every time that I can come before you to preach the word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. Just a little bit about the house of the faith. We meet every Sabbath, which is Saturday at Indiana University Northwest Library Conference Center Room LC 105, 3400 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. Again, that's every Sabbath. We at the House of the Faith meet at Indiana University Northwest Library Conference Center Room LC 105. That's 3400 Broadway, Gary, Indiana, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we invite you to come out and worship with us. You can also catch us on the live stream right here on the IsraelTeach YouTube channel. You can also live stream us at www.IsraelTeach.org. We also have a radio broadcast. Our radio show airs every Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time at WLTH 1370 AM, the region's choice. And you can live stream those Sabbath-day services, or those radio shows, excuse me, right there at IsraelTeach.org. Okay, brothers and sisters, today's lesson, I want to deal with it, and that is, the title is The Regathering of Israel. It's a simple lesson, and I want to deal with this because people are under the misconception that Israel does not matter. There are the two misconceptions. One, that Israel doesn't matter, and that the people who are in the land today are the Israelites. Well, brothers and sisters, that's not true. His people are still scattered throughout the diaspora, scattered in the places in which they were dispersed in captivity. They were not gathered in 1948. And it does still matter who these people are. Okay, so I just want to read what happened to Israel. I want to read about what was prophesied to come concerning Israel, because I've been getting quite a few messages, saying things like Israel doesn't matter, or in the sense of everybody's Israel. Okay, now people from other nations can serve the God of Israel. Okay, but there is a physical people who are the Israelites. Okay, so usually you see people on two ends of the spectrum. Either they say nobody else can be saved, or they say that, hey, it don't matter. Israel is anybody. Well, no, because it's pertaining to prophecy. You need to know who the physical Israelites are, because the Bible is telling you that some things are going to happen with these people. Okay, so I want to pick it up in Leviticus, the 26th chapter. Okay, and we want to find out what happened to Israel so we can identify who these people are. Okay, this is Leviticus, the 26th chapter, and we're going to pick it up and find out what Moses said was going to happen to the children of Israel even before they went into the promised land. This is Leviticus, the 26th chapter. And we're gonna pick it up at verse 32. It reads as follows. It says, "And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it." Okay, so this is talking about this is one of the things, the chastisements that was going to happen for disobedience to God's law. Okay, so he talked about distress and drought. He talked about disease and famine, and then he talks about dispersion. So it says, "I'm gonna bring the land into desolations, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished." Then it says, "And I will scatter you among the heathen." So I'm going to disperse you throughout all the nations of those people who don't know God, because that's what a heathen is. And it says, "And I will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste." Now, this is before Israel goes into the promised land. But Moses here foretells of the dispersion to come. He says, "Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths." Why? Because you're not in it doing what? Making images, making idols, sacrificing unto them. Okay, it says, And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the lands of their enemies. And the sound of a shaking leaf shall chase them. And they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursue it. Right? So you're going to be totally destroyed as a people. We don't even have a concept of nationality as a people, but we are a nation within a nation, brothers and sisters. That's what we are. We are a nation within a nation. But we are powerless because we have not turned back to our God. But let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, because we see what was to take place. It says you will be dispersed throughout the nations. I'm going to keep reading actually in Leviticus 26. It says, and they shall fall one upon another as if it were before a sword, when none pursue it. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. Why don't you have power to stand before your enemies? Because you've forsaken God. We have forsaken God as a people and have become the prey of all these heathens in the nations in which we have been scattered, few in number. It says, and ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. Okay? So we'll be destroyed. And it says, and they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemy's land, and also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. Why? What's the root of this dispersion? Why is this coming upon us as a people? Because of sin. Now he brought us out with a stretched out arm, with fury poured out, a mighty deliverance from the house of bondage. And yet we immediately went into a covenant with him and immediately started to sin against God, to where so much so to where he said, listen, this is a stiff-necked and hard-headed people, right? He was going to destroy all of Israel and make it, except for Moses, and make a seed out of him, because that would have still been keeping the covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what happens when you sin. You turn your back on God, he will turn his back on you. And we as a people have turned our backs on God, and look at us as a people. Some might say, what people? I'm talking about the nation of Israel, the so-called African American and others throughout the diaspora that have been scattered. We are the children of Israel. We are the people of the book. How do you know we are the people of the book? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Because whoever these people are, they've been scattered throughout the nations. Okay, well, some will say, well, that doesn't make you the people of the book. Well, let's read some of these prophecies pertaining to what was to happen to Israel. And again, Moses prophesied of this before they go into the land, right? See, this whole book is talking about, it's in essence, it's about a people and their God. That's what it's about. And so you have some that would say, well, the people don't matter. The people, whoever believe in God. That's not actually accurate. You're not a literal Israelite. You need to know who the literal Israelites are. Hold your finger here in Deuteronomy 28, and I want to show you why you need to know that. Let's go to the book of John, the gospel according to John. Gospel according to John, and we'll pick it up in chapter 4. John chapter 4. And I want to read one verse, because here he tells this Samaritan woman, and the Samaritans were put in the land after some of the 10 tribes were cast out. Okay? And so now this one, so the Messiah is talking to the Samaritan. And this Samaritan woman says something. In verse 20, she says, our fathers worship in this mountain. And ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. But you aren't a literal physical Israelite, right? But they were put in that land, right? When you read it, and they had to be taught the ways of the land, because the Lord has sent lions among them. They were destroying the people. But he says, Jesus said unto her, woman, believe me that the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. He says, ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews or the Judeans, right? The true seed of Judah. See, when people talk about a Jew right now, understand, brothers and sisters, those are not the true people that are written of in Scripture, or the children of Israel. They weren't regathered then. How could they be regathered when we gonna read? He gonna regather all of Israel. He's not just one tribe. Judah is one tribe, right? See, it's and people when they come, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm getting so many messages about that. Right? It don't matter who the people are. It definitely matters because you need to know salvation is of the Jews. You need to know what was given unto these people. Still hold your fingers in Deuteronomy. Let's go to Romans. You need to understand who these people are because something was given unto these people. He said salvation is of the Jews. This is Romans chapter 3, and we'll pick it up. At verse 1, it says, what advantage then hath the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. Something was given unto these people. What was given unto these people? The oracles of God. These are the only people that God manifested himself unto. And these are the people that are scattered amongst the heathen right now, on the bottom in society. On Section 8, in public housing, in economic depravity, in failing schools, in crime-infested neighborhoods, in the jail cell, rotting away in the prisons in solitary confinement, locked away, key thrown away, getting murdered in the streets. These are the people of the book. They have forsaken their God, and therefore have become a prey to all these other people. See, that's what's happened, brothers and sisters. Let's go one more place before we go back to Deuteronomy. Let's go to Revelation. Because he said, salvation is of the Jews. Then he said, what profit is there of what profit does have the Jew? And what profit is there of circumcision? What advantage doth have the Jew? What profit is there of circumcision? He said, much chiefly in every way, for unto them were committed the oracles of God. Right? So God manifested himself unto these people directly. And if you want to know God, you have to know who these people are. Right? See, that's why even a lot of these evangelical so-called Christians will say, they will defend who the people who call themselves Jews. Right? Will give money to the people who call themselves Jews and support them. Whatever they do, how dirty and filthy it may be, oftentimes they will support it because they say they're the people of the book. But you fail to understand what's written. Revelation 2 and 9, it says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. How can you be impoverished? Now, this is John. This is in John wrote this. This is Revelation 2 and 9, and these are the words of Jesus. It says in verse 9, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. It says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. So he says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty. I know what the true Jews are going through. The true Jews are black people, and the true Israelites are black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. He says, but thou art rich. How are you rich? What advantage doth have the Jew? And what profit is there in circumcision? Much chiefly in every way, for unto them were committed the oracles of God. You are rich because what God gave you. He said, only you have I known of all the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. Right? So we're being punished for all the iniquity of our forefathers and the iniquity that we perpetuate as a people. But we knew God. These other people are imposters. So you following imposters, but he's going to gather his people. See, and it's okay. See, people, and I'm going to just be honest, oftentimes these people who are doing this are of other nations. See, it don't matter who it is. Wait a minute. When you say that you're an Israelite, all of a sudden you crazy, right? Some people who historically and biblically could not possibly be the people. They say they're the people and it's all good. You say you're the people. You meet the criteria historically. You meet the criteria spiritually and scripturally of the people of the book, and you crazy. And then it don't matter. And then you say, well, you know about the color. You look at archaeology. You look at the artifacts. You look at the first pictures that were the depictions of the Israelites. Some of the first ones, much earlier than those paintings that Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo made. Much earlier, you say the people are black. Well, no, color don't matter. If it did not matter, why did you go through such change to make him look white? How is that okay? People show their true colors when they do that. People show their true colors when you would come to a people who have been destitute for so long, dry bones in the valley for so long. They've been deprived of knowledge of self for so long. You would come and tell them that their identity doesn't matter. No, it does matter. They need to know who they are. They are the priests of the Most High God. And if you want salvation, you have to come by this way. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get it following these people who call themselves the Jew, because they don't even believe in the Mashiach or the Messiah. They waiting on him to come, and he done already came. And when he come again, he's coming to destroy. He's coming back in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God and that obey not his gospel. That's what he's coming to do. That's what he's coming to do. You need to know who the people are. You need to know who the people are. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Because I said, we are the people of the book. We fit the description of the people of the book. And we have been scattered, but we are going to be regathered. And it did not happen in 1948. How are these people that call themselves a Jew the people of the book? I'll give you an example. You have the patriarch Joseph. Just to show you an example of how these people couldn't possibly be the people of the book. You see Joseph mistaken for an Egyptian, right, by his own brethren. We know that the Egyptians of antiquity were a black people. There is no question about that, even though you have those who try to lie about that. Mistaken as an Egyptian. He was indistinguishable between the other Egyptians by his own brethren. Years later, after they had sold him into slavery, and he ended up in Egypt. Okay, Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, the other nations, was mistaken for an Egyptian. Jesus, when Herod was trying to kill the male babies and he was doing that, trying to kill the one that was going to be king, his parents took him and hid under the covert of Egypt. How could he hide in Egypt? Jesus is described in Revelation 1, verses 13 through 15, to have hair like wool and feet the color of burned brass. Solomon said, I am black, but come. You mean to tell me these the white people that came up out of Egypt? How are they the true Israelites? When we know from the inception, the genesis of the people, when you look at Jacob and those those wives of those, as they began to grow from just a family and become a nation, they took their wives from what we call Hamitic, or today in the modern text or terminology, African people, black people. These were black people. So when you look at Egypt, you had one black nation that was powerful, and they were oppressing a black Semitic nation. That's what you had. You did not have these were not white people. And this is not about hate. This is not about who can and cannot be saved. This is you because you got less pigmentation, or you not of Israel, you can't be saved. I'm not saying that. See, we have to take the book what it says. You know what it says? It says that God is not a respecter of persons. It said other people can be saved. I also said that a lot of these nations going into captivity. It say that. It say going into slavery. It does say that. But you can't just do away with what it actually says. because of your own opinion. You have to take it as it is. And that's what, like I said, people show their true colors when they say the physical Israel doesn't matter. Well, what about all these prophecies pertaining to the people of the book? This is Deuteronomy 28, because he tells us what's going to happen to the people of the book, the children of Israel. What would happen if they were to continue in sin? It said, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. Right? So you're going to be cursed everywhere you go, and you're going to be cursed economically. You need to ask yourself the question, is the people that call themselves the Jew today, are they cursed economically, or do they run the banking institutions? Do they have more money per capita than any other quote unquote so-called minority? See, this is not, that's just a reality. That's just a reality. It says something here. It says, I'll pick it up in verse 30. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. That has been our experience here and throughout the diaspora period, in the places in which we've been scattered. Understand what it say, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her, meaning your wife is going to be taken from you in front of your eyes, and another man's going to lie with her in front of you, and you will have no power in your hand to do anything about it. You're going to build a house and shall not dwell therein. We built a country. We built a country. People are talking about right now other nations, right, from Arab countries, and they're up in arms. They're closing the airports. They're marching through the streets right now. They're registering themselves, which is foolish, as a Muslim right now, right? But and they're up in arms because they said it's an atrocity. It's a disgrace. Well, this country is hypocritical, and it is a big contradiction. But you know what else is hypocritical? To see what has happened to the so-called Negro in this country and not be in such a harm. When you talk about suffering, when you talk about oppression, when you talk about exploitation from the time we set foot here, even until this day, people, those same people weren't worried about it. I'm going to tell you right now, we need to relax and get out of the way. That's what we need to do. That's not our fight. Our fight is really ultimately an internal one, and it is over serving God. That's what we need to be worried about. Turning back to God. We don't need to go and march anymore for anything. We don't need to go and march to the airport. We don't need to go and cut off traffic on the highway. We don't need to act a fool in the streets and throw things and destroy public property. That's not what we need to do. What we need to do, because that's not our fight. That's not our fight. What we need to do is get back to the Most High God. Then you will have power. Then you won't have to worry about being a second-class citizen. Then you won't have to worry about being consistently rejected in this country, when you understand that if you're the people of the book, you are a nation. We are a nation. That's what we are. We have to develop that mindset. We are a nation. I'm not talking about being an American, right? Isn't that what many of our people right now? Black History Month. Isn't that a time where it's a celebration? And oftentimes it turns into the first Negro to do this, the first Negro to do that, the first Negro to break this barrier, the first Negro to jump over this, the first Negro to do this, all to propel America. See, the undergird of America is slavery. The foundation of its economic superiority, or what has been economic superiority for some time, is slavery. Right? That's what it is. And yet we are consistent. All our contributions we consistently rejected. Why? Because this is somebody else's system. This is somebody else's social order. This is somebody else's nation. Do they owe us something? Of course they do. They owe us everything. You're like, how they owe us everything? When you look at all the free labor and reparations, you'd have to give us the whole thing. But understand, brothers and sisters, we need to stop worrying about what they do. Voting is not going to get you anywhere. Do you not see that? Do you not see that? We're trying to be an American. Then some of us are trying to be African, going back to Africa. And then when they tell you, you're not from around here. You're not one of us. See, because we have a crisis of identity. Again, this is an internal conflict, and a conflict that we're having with ourselves. And the problem is that we have turned our backs on God, the power in this universe. We have turned our backs on him, and he has turned his back on us, and we need to turn to him if we want to be delivered. But that's our problem. So he said, "Thou shalt be taught the wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof." Verse 32. "Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fall and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand." Meaning your children are going to be sold. This is not talking about concentration camps, brothers and sisters. That's not what this is talking about. That's not what this is talking about. You even had to see people, you keep hearing about that. But brothers and sisters, and I'm not into really comparing oppression or exploitation or atrocities that people have suffered, but that does not compare to the transatlantic slave trade. We have suffered it all, even in this country. We have suffered it all. We have been in concentration camps in this country. You're like, what is that? Look at the Civil War, and look up the Devil's Punch Bowl, and how many of us were encamped into what equated to concentration camp, and many of us died. Listen. This is after 246 years of slavery, chattel slavery. So it said that sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and you're going to look at fair, and you're going to want them, and there's nothing you can do. Now you need to think, is this talking about the people that call themselves with you today? Or were they the middlemen in slavery? I think they were the middlemen in slavery. I think many of them profited from slavery when you look historically at their own records. That's what they tell you. That's what they tell you. So it says, verse 7, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." So we are a proverb. They have all kinds of names for us in a byword. They have all kinds of disparaging names, all kinds of disparaging remarks. Even our image within the media that we don't control, another people, by the way, control that. We don't control. We are depicted in a very negative, extremely negative light. It says in verse 41, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Then it says something. Moreover, verse 45, moreover, all these curses shall, matter of fact, hold on, let me go up a little bit. Verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. It happened when the people were in the land. But it also, even in our communities, within our communities today, we don't even run our own communities. And when you would come, this how brainwashed we are. When you would come to us as a people and say, hey, we need to control the economics and the politics in our own community, they would tell you that you are teaching and preaching hatred. When other people, whether they be the Korean, whether they be the so-called Jew, whether they be the European, Caucasian, they will come in and rape the community economically. But if you say you want to do business with yourself, then you are hateful. You are racist. See, this is the okie doke that Negroes have fallen for. So it says, moreover, all these, so it says in verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. Wait a minute. If the people of the book, because we know Israel kept sinning against God and experienced these curses, if the people of the book are the people in Israel right now, how are they? They the ones that do the lending. They're the ones that control interest rates. That's just a fact. They control banking. That's not a disparaging remark against them. That is a fact. We don't control. We go and borrow and barely can get a loan and get that terrible interest rates. Get a loan for a house, and we got some predator lending going on. So it said, moreover, all these curses. So it said, he shall be the head and thou shalt be the tail. Right? We might talk about in songs in black churches, right? We blessed in the city, blessed in the field. Actually, how were we blessed in the city and blessed in the field? How was that? That's a song. We blessed in the city, blessed in the field. We blessed when we come and when we go. That is not the case. And that wasn't talking about Christians. When you read it in context, that's talking about the children of Israel. They would be blessed if they didn't sin against God. But we know that they did. We know that we did as a people. And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now. And we curse wherever we go. Look at Chicago. Look at Baltimore. Look at Flint. Look at Detroit. Look wherever we're at as a people. Are we doing well? Are we the head or are we the tail? I mean, you can be real with yourself. Well, we couldn't possibly be talking about the people there now, because they live amongst their enemies, surrounded by enemies, and they get all kind of support from the Western world. So it said, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. Okay, so that's why it would take place. Then it says, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So when you see these curses, you should understand, brothers and sisters, what you're looking at. You should understand that these are the people of the book, right? Who are the people that had their children sold? Who are the people that had their wives raped? Who are the people that are head and not the tail? Who are the people who are cursed wherever they at? Let's read something else. This is verse 60. I'm going to pick it up in verse 64. It says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. Let me read verse 63. It says, and it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, which means nothing. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. So that land, and he said again, that Israel was going into, the promised land, he said, listen, you're going to be cast out of that land. Verse 64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wouldest known. And that's what we're doing right now. We're serving the gods of these Europeans. That's what we're doing right now. We are serving these false gods. This is verse 65. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. Is that not the black experience, brothers and sisters? Was it not us who were afraid of those night riders? The Black Legion, the KKK, these white supremacist groups that would come through the South, wreaking havoc on our people, lynching people. Is it not us who die in the streets from the occupation of what equates to really race soldiers? So it says in verse 67, in the morning thou shalt say with God it will even, and at even thou shalt say with God it will morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Then he says something in verse 68, because if you ain't figured it out yet, and you don't figure it out after this, I don't know what to tell you. You might as well go somewhere else. You might as well watch something else. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Egypt represents the house of bondage. How does it represent the house of bondage? When you read in Exodus, the 20th chapter, what did it say? Exodus 20 and verse 2, excuse me. It says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. This is the first. So when you say Egypt, it's almost synonymous with slavery. Right? That's what Abraham was told, that his seed will serve, rest of assurity that their seed shall serve in a land that is not theirs for 400 years. Right? He was shown that. So it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt or captivity again with ships. Now the people in the land, they were the ones owning the ships. They were the ones trading in slaves. And yet, they supposed to be the people of the book, and we the people who went into captivity with ships. You look at the Brooks diagram. We were cast into slavery, and we were cast into slavery in ships. Who is this talking about? You have to ask yourself a serious question. Who is this talking about? Who is that on ships? Who is this being sold? It says in verse 68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, which means the house of bondage, again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. All right, and that's in that book, Into Egypt Again with Ships, a message of the forgotten Israelites, African Americans. Did this happen? Who did this happen to? Who became a prey? And what does it mean? You'll be sold as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. No man is going to redeem. Nobody's going to get you out of this situation. We've had brilliant men rise up. We had a Marcus Garvey in our midst. We had an Elias Malik Shabazz in our midst. We had a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, a Booker T. Washington, a W.E.B. Du Bois, and A. Philip Randolph, a David Walker, a Martin Delaney. We had brilliant men to rise amongst us. And we still in captivity to this day, still scattered, still without a homeland. Or so we think. So you have to ask yourself, who meets the criteria? But understand, brothers and sisters, the Lord is going to regather his people. So that's what you need to understand. And that's why it's important, because all over the book is telling you that. This is Isaiah. We're going to pick it up at the 43rd chapter. Isaiah 43 and verse 1. It says, but now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. So Israel was his name. Okay? So that's one of the Lord's names. And he said, when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. I'm going to pick it up at verse, I'm going to keep reading. It says, for I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honored when I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yea, I have made him. He is going to regather his people. He gathered his people in the days of old and brought them into the wilderness. But what's going to happen in the time to come? This is Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah. And we're going to pick this up in I want to pick it up in verse 5. Because this is prophetic. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. This is talking about the Messiah. And then it says something, in his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Therefore, behold, the days come. Listen to this now. Because you say, I keep hearing people come on this page rather, and saying that Israel is whoever. That's not accurate. It said, whoever believes, that's not accurate. It said, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So now I just read about that in Exodus. I'm the Lord thy God, right? I'm the one that delivered you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, right? We're still talking about that thousands of years later. People still talking about that. But it says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Meaning you're not going to say that, but what are you going to say? Verse 8, it says, but the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the country, out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. As a what? As a nation. It didn't say you was going to be in some other people's land. You're going to vote, and you're going to be American, and you're going to sing Kumbaya, and it's going to be a beloved community, and you're going to overcome someday. You understand? Someday ain't came yet, because that's not what he told you to do. That wasn't the promised land. When Dr. Martin Luther King's talking about, I've seen the promised land. Forced integration in America is not the promised land. You are about to feel some serious pain. Rest assured. Rest assured, you're about to feel some serious pain. But it said, but the Lord liveth, was brought up, and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. All right? This country's going to take a back seat, you understand, soon enough, and you are going to feel some serious pain, and someone calls you to cry out to God. But let's go to Matthew, the 24th chapter, because it says you're going to talk about the one that brought you up. It said from all countries, not from Egypt. Let's go to Matthew, the 24th chapter, and see what's going to happen here. We're going to pick it up at verse 3. This is Matthew, the 24th chapter. Then we're going to skip around to the end of this description of what's going to happen. This is Matthew, the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 3. It reads as follows. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So they wanted to know. Okay, so he told them about wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, earthquake, disease. Then he talked about the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place. And whosoever read it, let him understand. Right? And he tells you to flee. And then he said, why? Because for then shall be great tribulation. It says, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no ever shall be. Then what's going to happen after the great tribulation? This hasn't happened yet. We want to narrow this down to a time frame so we can understand when this regathering happens, and we should understand that it didn't take place in 1948. It hasn't happened yet. This is Matthew 24, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Okay, so that's the sign you see consistently throughout the book about the return of the Messiah. Verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Why? Because he's coming back in wrath. It says, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Verse 31, pay attention. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Who are his elect, brothers and sisters? His elect are the children of Israel. That's what he's talking about. See, he's talking about gathering his people. When? Not in 1948, but at his coming. And where is he gathering them from? All nations, in which he has scattered them. See, that's what's happening at that time. That's what's happening at that time. But let's go to Ezekiel. We want to go to Ezekiel, the 28. Let's see, the 28th chapter. Ezekiel, the 28th chapter. This is Ezekiel 28. Because this is all over the book, brothers and sisters. It says in verse 25, thus saith the Lord God, when I shall have gathered the house of Israel from the people among whom they are scattered, and shall be sanctified in them in the sight of the heathen, then shall they dwell in their land that I have given to my servant Jacob, and they shall dwell safely therein, and shall build houses and plant vineyards. Yea, they shall dwell with confidence when I have executed judgments upon all those that despise them round about them, and they shall know that I am the Lord their God. Chapter 20. See, this hasn't happened yet, though. This hasn't happened yet. And he's going to bring, this hasn't happened yet, because when prior to him bringing it into the land, listen, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If you want to know what the Lord is going to do, look at what he already did. He doesn't change. Okay? So right here in Ezekiel 20 and verse 33, we see what he's going to do. It says, as I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. So now he's talking to his people. Then it says, and I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. See, just like he dropped plagues on Egypt, he's going to drop plagues on this world as a whole. He does the same thing. It's, for example, when you look at Joshua and the children of Israel in Jericho, the walls of the city fell at the sound of a trumpet. So the walls of the world, so to speak, the kingdoms of the world, at the sound of a trumpet, listen, they gonna fall. See, he does the same thing over again. Just like when in the days of Joshua, the sun stood still, right? And he was able to slay the enemy. That's similar to like what's gonna happen when the Lord comes back. The sun's not gonna give it light. Right? The sun will be dark, and the moon shall not give a light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. He's coming back, and then he said the tribes of the earth no more. He's coming back in wrath. He does the same things over and over again. And just like he brought the children into the wilderness before bringing them into the promised land, he's going to bring Egypt from all countries into the wilderness once again. See, it doesn't change. So did the people that now, did they go into the wilderness? See, and this is important because it has not happened. So it says in verse 35, and I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. See, God manifested himself unto those people directly, those who were in the wilderness. He manifested himself unto him directly, gave him a law. He said, I'm going to do the same thing. It says, and I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Right? It's going to be written in the law is going to be written in your mind. Then it says, I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. Isn't that what he did back then? Those that murmured, those that kicked up, those that rebelled, he destroyed many of them. Then it says, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am the Lord. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. See, this hasn't happened yet, brothers and sisters, but it is going to happen. This is Deuteronomy. And it's going to pick it up at verse 30, chapter 30, excuse me. Deuteronomy 30. One second. Let me pick it up actually before I read that, just to show that it hasn't happened yet. And some things have to happen before, like the Lord, Messiah is coming back, and he's going to gather his people. We read in Matthew 24. They gather from all nations, and it's not just one tribe. It's all of them. But let's read some here in Jeremiah. And I'm going to pick it up at verse, I'm going to pick it up at verse 7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bounds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. Okay, so in this time of tribulation, okay, this time of trouble, Israel's going to be delivered. Then it says, but they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Wait a minute, David is dead, and as Peter said, his sepulchre is with us until this day. This is prophetic. This is future, brothers and sisters. And it says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Right? What does he mean? Wait, so he's going to return to his own land? But who's going to be there? David. So how are the people in the land right now, and David has not been resurrected and reigning? How is that? It's because people are lying. That's how. That's how. Let's go to let me keep reading this. So it says in verse 10, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, will I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. But I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So now we can understand why we've suffered so much. Like he said, only you have I known all the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 30. This is Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 1. It reads as follows. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee. It's time for us to call it to mind, brothers and sisters. To wake up out of this spiritual slumber, to wake up out of this sleep, and to wake up into who we are as a people. We are the people of the Most High God. We are his priests. We need to get back to his laws, his statutes, his commandments, his ordinances, his judgments. We need to serve him. So it says, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God. That's what we need to do. And shalt obey his voice. That's what we need to do. According to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. See, you need to stay out them streets. Don't go to the airport and march. Don't go out on the college campuses and wreak havoc. Don't stop traffic. Don't march on D.C. Don't write another letter to your governor or your senator or your representative. What you need to do, is turn back to God with all thine heart and with all thy soul. That's what you need to do. Put up your marching shoes. Put your ballot away. Don't even worry about it. You need to repair your relationship with your God. That's where your salvation lies. It does not lie in this system whatsoever. So it says that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity. You voting and you a slave. You say, how am I a slave? You ain't never been home. You don't even have a concept of home. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. See, he's the one that's going to do it. He's going to gather you from all nations where you've been scattered. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. That's what we need to do. So the regathering, brothers and sisters, is important. The regathering is prophetic. The regathering is written of. So we need to turn back to him in spirit and in truth. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. So with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the House of the Faith. We meet every Sabbath at Indiana University Northwest Library Conference Center, LC 105, 3400 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. You can live stream our Sabbath day services right here on the IsraelTeach YouTube channel. You can also go to IsraelTeach.org to have a more interactive experience to live stream there. We also have a radio broadcast that airs every Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on WLTH 1370 AM, the region's choice. Again, that's WLTH 1370 AM, the region's choice. Our radio show airs every Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can live stream those radio broadcasts if you're not in the Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana area, right there on IsraelTeach.org. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you have been edified.